Compliance is a profession where people work tirelessly to make the world a better place. And there are hundreds of amazing and inspiring women who have helped the field develop into what it is today. Great Women in Compliance is part of the Compliance Podcast Network as they talk with women in compliance who are making a difference.
Hello, and welcome to the Great Women in Compliance podcast with Hema Lomax and Lisa Fine. We are sponsored by Corporate Compliance Insights, and today we have Ellen Hunt co-hosting with me, and we are talking about mentoring from the standpoint of mentors and mentees. Now, Ellen is not only a co-host of the Roundtable, she has also been a mentor, advocate, sponsor, all the things you'd want to call it for me. So I'm particularly excited to do this with her. Sponholz is here, and she was announced yesterday as Compliance Week's 2024 Mentor of the Year. So we've got breaking news and a fabulous person. And last but not least, Margarita Derelanko, who is the Senior Director of Compliance at Ivy Rehab Physical Therapy. And Mel and Margarita also have a mentor-mentee relationship. So this is just a fabulous conversation, and I'm so excited to get to talk to all of you wonderful women. So with that, let's just start with everyone giving a little bit of information about your background and what your role or what you think about mentors and mentees. Mel, we'll start with you.
Okay, great. This group is so perfect for this topic, first of all, because Ellen, also one of my mentors, and I also learn as much, I think, from Margarita as she learns from me. And so that's a big part of my thought process about mentoring in general, is that it's a two-way street. So I'm really excited to talk about it. I've been very lucky to have, a number of great mentors across my adult lifespan, both personal and professional, in lots of different industries and all with really unique, great characteristics that I hope I've been able to draw from in my career and to help other people. So thank you so much for inviting me. This is so much fun.
Margarita, let's move over to you. Talk a little bit about you and your background.
Sure, and thank you for having me. I'm Margarita Derelanko, and I happily serve as the Senior Director of Compliance and Privacy Officer at Ivy Rehab Network. And I've been working really closely with Melanie, who also mentors our team, and her amazing team mentors our team in our journey of managing our effective compliance program. Melanie has been a mentor for me for a number of years, and I truly enjoy every interaction that we have. I've learned so much from her. It's just been a pleasure. And while I'm completely out of my league here today with you, Lisa, and Ellen and Melanie, I'm so excited to be talking to all of you. And I truly believe that all of us in compliance roles are mentors to the people that we engage in our organizations. And there's nothing better for our compliance professionals to see that impact and the influence we have. We are mentors. We are a different kind of influencer. And so my greatest professional journey and joy is to inspire, enable others to make compliance second nature and truly change perceptions around compliance. So looking forward to this discussion. Thank you for having me again.
Thanks. And Ellen, let's start with you with the question.
One of the things that I think is the most rewarding about our profession is how open, sharing, and giving it is. I say to my daughters all the time, you can never have too many friends. And I think this profession kind of epitomizes that, right? People connect with me on LinkedIn or at conferences and other places, and my assumption is I can learn from them, maybe they can learn from me, and you never know what's going to happen in this world where we're all somehow connected by some degrees of connection. I think the other thing that when I think about mentoring and mentoring mentees, I think about how we are all trained as professionals, and somehow there's an expectation we know all the answers. But when you look at professional sports, those athletes have coaches all the time. And we need to think about, we need coaches too. Sometimes in our professional careers, sometimes in our personal lives or whatever. And whether they're a mentee or a mentor or just a good friend or a sponsor, they're important. And you need to build your social network and your support so that you're getting the coaching you need when you need it.
You're a pro at that, Ellen. You're a pro at creating connections and connecting others as well. So we appreciate that in our community as well.
Yeah, I was talking about flavors of mentors the other day, and I call Ellen a node because she's like a connecting point. And honestly, I would challenge, we could probably play a game right now where you could say, I need to know about fill in X topic, and Ellen will know someone to connect you to, and she will do it with the utmost of speed and efficacy. And I bet you we could call it the game Stump Ellen to see if we could come up with any topic for which she cannot connect you with someone. And I bet we would all lose on that one.
I love it.
We may change the podcast episode title from mentoring to Stump Ellen. But
Ellen, yes.
In the meantime, Ellen, we'll start. What do you think is the most important skill to have as a mentor, and what's key to that? And then we can take that around the horn.
I think it's listening. I really think it is. You have to understand what the person needs from you. And I've never really gone into these relationships with a formal, you're my mentee or I'm your mentee. I just listen to what the people need and how can I help them. So sometimes people are looking for their next step in their career. So how do you help them figure out what they really want? Sometimes they've got a question of the area of expertise where they need to be connected with somebody who has that. Sometimes people just need somebody a shoulder to cry on. They just want some empathy and understanding and not feeling alone. So I think for any of these relationships, no matter how you structure them, it's really trying to understand what that person needs and how you can provide what they need to them if you can. And sometimes you can't, right? But I mean, I think that's what it's really about is what can you do for them that helps them on their journey? Margarita, what do you think?
I think if you look to be an impactful mentor, the most important skill in my book is to not only make the time for the mentee, but truly be there and zeroing in on the person that you're mentoring, whether you're offering it an hour, half hour for the mentee. I think it's important to dig deep in those conversations, to have those moments of true attention, because that's when the beautiful things happen and you can be vulnerable, you can dare to dream together. So I think that we talked about this already. Mentees and mentors are learning from each other. Mentors are learning just as much. And I think that intentional attention is what gets you there and is when that happens. So I think that's really valuable for a mentor. As a mentee, on the flip side, I think the best quality that you should exercise is being open-minded and receiving the feedback, but truly incorporating that feedback from your mentor. Because otherwise, I think the time that you spend would resemble that more of a friendly conversation, which we all want to have now and then. But if you want to make an impact and if you want to have that seed planted and go farther, I think that intentional attention needs to be there, and that open-mindedness and incorporating the feedback as a mentee is truly important. What do you think, Melanie, about that reflection?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, not surprising to me, right? That what both you and Ellen are saying really resonates with me, because I have intentionally chosen to have relationships with both of you because I think we do have are on the same wavelength with this. I think kind of combining what you're both saying, I think as a mentor, it builds off of what both of you have said about listening and really digging deep and hearing what's being said by your mentee, because I think the most valuable thing you can do is really give advice tailored for that person, not trying to put your mentee is not you, right? So you're not just saying what you would do. You really need to get to know them and hear what they're saying so that you can help them find what the right thing for them is to do, which may be very different than what you would do. And that's what keeps life interesting. So I guess it's maybe having that sense of curiosity so that you're really listening and you're trying to come up with an answer that is both wanted and sought and useful to the person that's coming to you. It's not just trying to kind of push your own template on to someone else. I think that would be my key to good mentoring.
We sometimes think that criticism means we haven't performed well, but when people share their observations with you, it's a gift. And it's always better when it comes from somebody you trust than somebody who doesn't. And yeah, I always think of that saying, fish can't see water. You don't know how you're showing up, but other people do. And that can be a real value to you. I tell this story about a CEO that I worked with when I was quite a young lawyer, who I walked into his office one day with what I thought was a very important issue. And he said to me, Alan, doesn't bring $1 in the door. Why does it take me a minute of my time? And I thought, oh, that's so harsh. He just doesn't care about what I care about. But it ended up being really good advice. I mean, all these years later, I still talk about that story. Lisa, when you think about it, what do you think is that most important skill?
I mean, I think you all have covered many of them, so it's hard to kind of be creative, but I think there's a combination of both sort of vulnerability and openness. And that's a theme that I'm also going to talk about as you're looking for qualities in a good mentor. I think I've been reflecting a lot in the earlier parts of my career, and I think it's got a lot to do with why I like the podcast and this community so much, is that the women I started to get to, like, it was very much like everything is perfect. I will do corporate speak. I am supporting, basically, nobody wanted to show like a chink in the armor at all. And part of that was because of what the work environment was like. But what I took from it is in my earlier career was, oh God, I'm a mess compared to all of the rest of this. And I learned as life went on and work went on, that everyone's confused just about certain different things, and figuring out what I was good at and what I wanted to do was so much better when my mentors were talking to me about things that scared them or failures or the things that do that, as opposed to all of the things they did that gave them the career and resume. Because that, to me, I look for that openness and that being vulnerable, because it helps me learn and sometimes feel a little bit less alone. And it makes those conversations extremely valuable, which I guess would go along to one of the things I wanted to talk about, what we do look for in mentors, which is that what I was talking about, that for you. And also people who built, for me, another thing that I look for is somebody who has a genuine interest in other people. You were saying that earlier, because there will be people who will want to mentor, but just so they can say they're mentors, or things like that. But I think it's really, and most don't. And frankly, in our field, they really don't. But sometimes in other areas, it's part of check the box for career progression, be a mentor. And I think it's so much more than that. And I also think when I've looked for the people and I've sought them out, and Ellen being one of them, are people who will kind of give me hard truths and do it in a way that I don't feel upset. I think I know generally when someone hits the mark on anything, if I feel vulnerable about it, when I suddenly start feeling a little defensive. But Ellen and others, when they'll say something for me to think about, I look for the person who can help me get better without kind of making me feel less than in the meantime. So that would be something for me. Ellen, I'll just throw it back to you. And when you've looked for mentors?
I think it's that safe space, depending upon what you need. Maybe you're struggling and you don't realize how you're showing up, and you've got to change maybe the way you're dealing with your board or your executives. And you need somebody who can coach you about, you think that you're maybe being very open and transparent, but the way your message is coming across doesn't seem that way. It seems defensive, perhaps. I think that it's interesting to me because I've never, ever really had a formal mentor, but I have lots of people who are in that role for me. And the role sometimes changes, right? Sometimes they're an advocate, they're a sponsor, and those are different things, but they can all be rolled into one. I have to say that for me, I really want somebody who is going to share information and experiences that are very different, right? I mean, it gets to Mel's point about curiosity, right? I want to learn. And for me, anything that makes me think differently than I currently do is a value add, right? because I realize that I can go through life with my blinders on. And I want to make sure that I've got that wide panoramic view of what's going on. So, Margarita, what do you think?
I do agree with Lisa about sharing the moments of vulnerabilities or disappointments, because I think those are actually more motivating than some may think, to know that your heroes, your role models, your mentors also have setbacks, and they're able to dust themselves off and continue on and be brilliant and extraordinary and be good at something regardless of those barriers. And I think those barriers, disappointments, setbacks are all what makes them who they are and how they are. So it's truly wonderful to learn about that and know that you're not alone in that. And I think the other piece that I know Melanie has been able to do for me and for others that she mentors is instilling that confidence in your own abilities and knowing that you're killing it every day and that you truly are putting your best foot forward, and that you should be confident in your decisions, and you should be confident in who you are and how you show up every day and in your abilities as a compliance officer. So I think that is something that you look for in a mentor as well, and someone who is able to see the full picture before you even do. I know Melanie has been recognized for a lot of reasons, but I think one of the reasons that makes her truly special is that she thinks about it and sees that your future, your picture before you even do it, right? Your potential, and kind of helps you think about it differently, or puts it in different perspective. So I think being sharing your disappointments, being vulnerable, instilling confidence in your mentee, opening up doors, but also opening up those mental possibilities that you haven't even thought about is truly special.
Yeah. I'm embarrassed listening to that. Thank you so much. Such kind words.
Thank you.
Mel, what do you look for?
Of course, what you've all said resonates with me as well. I think at a very foundational level, I'm looking for someone who's authentic and also is confident in themselves. I think some of the best mentors I've had, it's because they are comfortable in their own skin and confident, and so they can lift other people up and be happy to help other people shine. And so when I'm looking to connect with someone, I'm looking for that kind of positive energy, so that I think life is too short to spend time with people who don't make you feel good. And I'm not saying that means they're always going to tell you what you want to hear, because I agree that sometimes, and certainly Ellen has done this for me, sometimes you need someone to say, okay, listen, let's look at the reality here. And that's valuable, but always in a way that's kind and with the intention of really helping me be the best that I can be. And so I think looking for people with varied backgrounds and different perspectives, because I love that metaphor for the fish don't see the water. I think we need people who can be authentic and kind and look at and listen to us and then give us a different perspective or some additional knowledge that we would not have seen otherwise, because we're connecting with the person who comes from a different background, different perspective. But it's really that energy. And I think you can almost feel that. I love the advice to, when you're following people on social media or reading things that folks have written, you can kind of feel, what their vibe is, what their energy is, and find energy that you feel attracted to, that you feel connected to, because those are going to be the communication channels, I think, that tend to be the most powerful. And it could be someone very different from you, but the energy is always going to be an important factor, I think, in making sure if you talk to someone and they make you feel bad about yourself, that's not your mentor.
Yeah. I just want to jump in and say as well with that, if you start reading from somebody or you see somebody and you think I might want to have that person be a mentor, just reach out and tell them you enjoyed their work. I mean, you don't have to right away say, hi, I love this article, want to be my mentor. I mean, just you see what the vibe is and get to know and see if it works for you with that. Because generally, if you're thinking, oh, this person's so busy or other things, I think all of us, I mean, if somebody actually writes and says, what you've done matters, I'm interested, here's something I'm interested in, people will respond to that and want to help you and get to know you because they know you're also interested in the field and have made some effort. I would say if somebody's thinking right now, I'm nervous to write to someone, don't. If they don't write back, whatever, they might not write back that day, that probably isn't the right mentor for you down the line. And it's a good thing to keep looking for the right one.
One of the terms I hate is imposter syndrome, right? Because it automatically assumes you can't do whatever it is you want to do. But when you think about that, how do you pick a mentor or mentee? And when you think about where you want maybe some coaching or counseling, or you want a trusted friend, or you want an advisor, what kind of things do you really look for, Mel?
Yeah, I think, if I'm looking for a mentor, I think we all have moments of lacking confidence. And I feel that I've finally gotten to a point in life where I know what I'm really good at, and I know, what I'm not as good at. And when I'm looking for mentors now, it's great to find people that I feel can maybe inspire me in the areas that are not my natural strengths. And so looking for being curious. I also think it's very easy to get in a rut and have confirmation bias in life, and to surround yourself with similar thinkers. So I really enjoy trying to find diversity and thought diversity in when I'm seeking out people to connect with. At this point in my career, I just think it's exciting and interesting, and it keeps life fresh for me to just hear about novel approaches or different perspectives on things. And in mentees, I love enthusiasm. I love positivity. I am looking for that person who is receptive and is looking for that exchange, because I don't think every person is looking for my advice. So shockingly, not everyone wants it. So I think when you really make that authentic connection with someone, and we've all met that person where you reach out, maybe, as I highly recommend, as Lisa said, reach out to someone whose content, whose thoughts resonate with you. And we've all had that experience where you make that connection and a half hour flies by, and you're just loving the back and forth and the exchange. And that's whether it's a mentor or a mentee. I think you're looking for that authentic connection and that really two-way street and that exchange of energy, and you found your match.
It reminds me of the saying, your flame loses nothing by lighting another's. Yeah. So Margarita, what do you think?
Well, back to Melanie's vibe comment and everything she just discussed, I think it's okay to be selective in your formal mentor-mentee relationship establishment, and it's okay to observe and take some time. So as a mentor, to observe to see whether this person possesses the qualities that you would want in the mentee, and that they would be, back to my comment around incorporating feedback and being curious, but being open-minded. Do they truly possess that? And I would expect that even as a mentee, you would also want to do that observation exercise. Is this person modeling the behavior that you aspire to? And we all have different aspirations, different opinions, and different definitions of success. And so I think getting to know and taking the time to see, is this the right mentor for me? Is this the right mentee for me in terms of formal relationships or semi-formal relationships? But I think also in the compliance space, and thanks to the Great Women in Compliance podcast, we're able to have sort of non-traditional avenues for mentor-mentee relationships. And I think there are a lot of opportunities out there if you're genuine about it. And I think there are so many brilliant men and women out there in the compliance space that may not even know that they're my mentors, because I sign up for their blog or their newsletter, and I take their learnings and try to apply them to my own career. I try to act on those. And There are women out there that I've connected with that will email me back and forth on a topic, and we kind of have a mini mentoring session virtually. And we all know these women, Christy Gernhardt, Amy Barnard-Bond, and others that are willing to take the time and respond to your email. And if you're genuine and you're curious and you take the time, there are women out there. And again, thanks to this podcast, thanks to these women that are on this podcast and in this episode today, we're able to do that. And I love that about our community, that we're so genuine about it. So thank you for that.
With that, I mean, I'm not really sure what else I'm supposed to share.
Yeah, drop the mic on that one.
All joking aside, one of the things you just brought up, Margarita, is something I think about a lot. I guess I think of most of my mentors and mentorships as like I got my own kitchen cabinet, because there are so many areas where, and going back to Ellen's analogy of coaches, athletes have they have their strength coach, they have their strategy coach, they have other things. So there are so many things that I'm learning all the time from different people. Ellen may be like a regular on that, but there's somebody I consider a mentor in my organization who kind of helps me figure out how do I best communicate things to people, because when Ellen will give me the advice substantively or thinking about how to go ahead, if I can't get past something, but still I am well aware of the people that I work in a UK-based company. How can I best address what those concerns that they may have or make this more effective to them? May have zero to do with compliance, but everything to do with me doing my job, or how to build a career or communication. So I'm a big proponent, like you said, short-term, long-term, and lots of different people. And I think that is similar to what you all are saying about being, open-minded and curious. Diversity in thought and diversity in growth is a great thing for your community. And before I close this off, does anybody have any other last thoughts they'd want to share or comments? Mel, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of just the highlights from this conversation. I think, first of all, seek out the people you would like to be your mentors, and don't be afraid to reach out. And I do think there's lots of ways of doing it. I'm a big fan of the virtual coffee. Just reach out and say, do you have 20 minutes for a Zoom cup of coffee? Think you're a great thought leader, would love to pick your brain on X. Be specific. Say, this is what I really love about what you're talking about, and I would love to ask you a couple of questions. And I have found people to be amazingly receptive. So I think seek out those people and don't be afraid to ask. And also, I love the kitchen cabinet approach. I think I had Dan Greenleaf, one of the CEOs that I worked with. He was a fabulous mentor on managing people, and I learned a lot about managing people from him. And it was a really specific skill set that he was a great mentor in. Or Margarita mentioned Amy Barnard-Bond. She was a great mentor for me on communicating with boards, or in your performance review, or in a presentation. Just very targeted advice for how to get your message across effectively. I think it's finding those gems that are just really, really cut through and give you that perspective, that light bulb moment in these various areas in life. And also that two-way street, I guess, is the other thing, is just give and get. So that I think mentors are people too, right? So you need to give and get. So I think those would be my pieces of advice.
Margarita, any closing off?
I think my one-liner would be just think creatively on who and how someone can be a mentor to you, because there are so many options and there's so many gems out there, like Melanie said. And even if someone does not approach a formal relationship with you, there are so many avenues in our community now that you can think creatively of how to approach that and how to have a mentorship from someone differently.
Ellen?
Can't have too many friends.
Absolutely. And what I would want to say is that my mentorships and being mentored and mentee has exploded as part of this podcast and this podcast community. Every person that you all have brought up, I've talked to, and then there are so many others that we're not mentioning right now. And without this, I feel very fortunate. I don't know where I would have been in terms of my community, and I feel so fortunate to have been able to build that through this. And I hope that our hope has always been that extends to others. So if you're listening to this and this inspires you in some way, I would give you a sort of a call to action to reach out to somebody on LinkedIn, and someone that's inspired you. Now, you don't have to just reach out to someone who just talked about it that you listened to, but somebody out in the community, and take advantage of that, or take advantage of our GWIC LinkedIn group or all of the different tools out there, because it is a community of people, and particularly women, that want to inspire each other and have each other's back and help us out. Thank you all so much for being inspirational to me. And I'm getting hearts since we don't have video on this, but it's such a great community, and I love this episode, and I love that you all took the time for this. And added congratulations to Mel for her well-deserved Mentor of the Year for Compliance Week. So on behalf of all of us, thanks so much for joining. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Great Women in Compliance. We hope you'll join us in honoring the great women in the compliance field by subscribing to this podcast and leaving a review.